Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I want to talk to you about something that I experienced the other night, which is the newest Punchdrunk production called Viola's Room.
Let me tell you a story from long, long ago. Don't be afraid. Sometimes you have to trust the dark.
But firstly, hi, I'm Nikki. I make videos about spooky things and creepy haunted history, but I'm lucky enough to sometimes get to go to some amazing theatre productions in London, and I cannot wait to tell you about this one because it's probably one of my favourites I've ever done. But if you are new around here and you love haunted history, spooky things, and the occasional theatre review or immersive experience review, then please hit the subscribe button because I'd love you to stick around. So I was lucky enough to be invited along by Punchdrunk to go and experience their latest offering, which is called Viola's Room. Now, if you know anything about Punchdrunk, you'll know that they are the epitome of immersive experiences. If you've ever heard the name Sleep No More, or you've been lucky enough to go to it yourself, I think it's currently still on in New York and has been for several years, and that's because these guys know exactly what they're doing. So the last offering before the one that they've put on now, which is Viola's Room, was the Burnt City. I did go along to the Burnt City, but I'll get into a bit about my thoughts on that later on once we've discussed Viola's Room. Now, first off, just to say, I was lucky enough to be invited by Punchdrunk to go and experience this, but I am under no contractual obligation to give a biased review or anything like that, so what you're getting here is genuinely the truth. So first off, a little bit about the experience. Now I'm just going to read exactly from their website what it says about the experience. Viola's Room is an audio-driven journey through a moonlit fever dream. Barefoot and wearing headphones, audiences feel their way through a labyrinthine installation as an unseen narrator reveals a story of innocence lost and obsession unleashed. Written by Booker Prize shortlisted Daisy Johnson and narrated by Helena Bonham Carter, Viola's Room reimagines a classic gothic mystery for a new audience. It distills 2 decades of Punchdrunk's immersive practice into an intimate sensory adventure that promises to infuse the dreams of anyone who dares to follow the light. So that's an idea of what the show is itself. However, I just wanted to share my experience with you from a first-hand point of view, exactly how it went for me. Now, I said I was going to mention the Burnt City, and here we go. This is going to be controversial to a lot of people that absolutely adored it, but I personally wasn't a huge fan of the Burnt City. Now, if you didn't go to it, you might not know that it was basically all the Greek tragedies, but kind of blended into one, and I just found it personally quite a confusing show. I couldn't really get my head around it. If I tried to follow characters, a lot of the time I felt like I was picking up at the end of stories, and I just felt completely lost by the whole thing. However, the sets I thought were fantastic, and the way that you were allowed to explore the experience, I really enjoyed that. Now, Viola's Room is not that. It is a 1-hour-long experience. You have headphones on and you are guided directly through the experience. So it's not the same as most Punchdrunk shows where you are chucked in with a mask on and off you go. This is a show where you don't have a mask, you just have headphones. You're in a small group of 6 and off you go into the experience. Now I'm going to try and avoid spoilers because I think you really should go into this without knowing very much about it, because that's exactly what I did, and I feel like if I'd known things in advance, it might have spoiled it for me. So I urge you to not seek out any further information about it, but I will give you a couple of things that I think are important to know, particularly if you might be a little bit frightened about going. So when you arrive at the experience, we were a bit early, so we went for a drink in the bar, and then we came back and were put into a holding room before you go in, and there you'll receive your briefing from a member of staff. And there's also a list of rules that are on the table. I'm going to put them on the screen, so if you want to know exactly what they are, then do feel free to pause and have a read. But I think 3 things that I found really helpful that were on this list of rules is that 1, this experience is very dark. You won't entirely be left on your own in the dark, but there are areas which are completely pitch black, so just be aware of that. One thing I found really helpful though, and this comes later on when you receive your briefing in your headphones, because there's 2 briefings. In fact, there's actually 3 briefings. So you feel very well equipped by the time you go in. But one thing that they did say is that you follow the light, so you follow the moonlight, and when things go completely dark, you stop and you stand still. And I found that really helpful to know. So you won't be travelling completely in the dark. There's one little bit that is quite dark that you do have to go through, but you are encouraged in the headphones. So as they say, trust the dark, you'll be fine. In terms of that as well, this experience is all on one level. You're not going up and down stairs. There's no risk of falling or anything like that. So just be aware that you will be perfectly fine. I was slightly worried that they might send you out of a door and off a cliff, but they didn't. You are barefoot for the entire experience, but this isn't uncomfortable at all. All of the areas that you walk through, none of it is, you're not going to encounter anything that's painful under your feet or anything like that. So just go into it knowing that you will take your shoes and socks off. And when you book a ticket, they'll tell you that anyway. When you go in, there is a place to sit down and take your shoes and socks off, and the shoes get stored and then they're given back to you at the end. There's also sanitization stations. That's a very pleasant thing to say. Sanitization station at the beginning and the end of the experience as well. So you can be safe in the knowledge that everybody that's gone through has got very clean feet. So then you're given your briefing and your headphones, and you're basically put into your group of 6 and off you go. Now, there is no talking in the experience. You just put your headphones on and then that's you. You are basically on your own to do it, but you will be in a group of 6 and you will travel together. Now, Punchdrunk were nice enough to let me go into the first room of the experience so you can see exactly where you start off. And I think if you've got any anxiety problems or anything like that, then this I think is quite helpful because you'll know exactly where you're starting. This is a very comforting area. Nothing scary happens. And in fact, throughout the whole experience, I didn't find it frightening at all. There's a few little elements that might potentially be a little bit scary for some people, but I personally wouldn't use the word scary to describe this experience. I think it's more fantastical and actually quite magical. So if you're nervous about going because you think it might be full up with jump scares, then please don't worry. As I said, one thing that I found really helpful on the list of rules is that it does actually state that there are no jump scares whatsoever. So please don't worry about that. Any members of staff that you see that are around in the experience, they're there to help you. And we actually only had one member of staff come and help us because at one point there was a slight malfunction and we got stuck in an area. Well, stuck is too strong a word, I would say. We were held up by ourselves because we thought we needed to be standing somewhere where there was a light when we should have actually been further along the line. But that was fine and they came to help us and it was no problem at all. So once you're in the experience, the first section, you are walked into Viola's room, and this is probably about the only spoiler I'm going to give you. So if you don't want to hear it, just skip ahead. You go into the room, you then lie down on one of the beds, and then your experience starts there. These beds are on the floor. There is some crawling involved as well, but it's literally you go from one room into the next. And in terms of travelling around, I would say that actually I've been to other immersive experiences like War of the Worlds, which are ever so slightly more active than this. So if you've been to that one, you'll be perfectly fine with this one. So in terms of the actual story, I just found this so incredibly nostalgic for one. There's music that plays throughout the experience, which is music that you will know. And if you were growing up throughout the 90s and the early 2000s like I was, then you will feel all the feels for this because I found it super nostalgic. In fact, the lighting in Viola's room itself actually inspired me to buy some lights for my bedroom. And that's how much I loved it. It just reminded me of being a kid. So once you're in the experience, all you need to do is follow the moonlight, and this is quite cleverly done because you literally just follow the path of lights and you will find the way that you need to go. I really don't want to give you any spoilers because I do feel like it will take away from your experience, but what I would say is please don't be frightened to go first. There were a couple of people in our group that were nervous to go first, and actually I loved going first. I kind of wish that I'd been on my own, to be honest. I feel like I would have got a little bit more out of it. Sometimes if you're in a group of people, it does take away from an experience a little bit, and I kind of wish that I just had my headphones on and been able to go it alone because I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But yes, just be brave. You'll be fine. There's nothing scary. Then once you're in there, as I said, if it goes completely dark, you just stop. That's kind of your guide within the experiences. If you get to an area and it is completely dark, just stop and then a light will appear and you just follow on to the next light. So story-wise, I feel a little bit like sometimes when I do these immersive experiences that I kind of need 2 goes round, and I think I probably will go back because I firstly absolutely loved this show and I thought it was fantastic. But I feel like I kind of need 2 goes round because I'm focusing on the doing part on the first go, and then I feel like the second time round I'll be listening more to the story. So depending on how you experience things, you might just want to be aware of that you don't need to be nervous nervous about what's happening next. Just try if you can to pay attention more to the story, because I feel like that's something that I missed a little bit out on, but I will be returning so I can give that another go. Then once you're through the experience and out the other side, as I said, there's a sanitisation station for your feet so you can wash them off, and then you're done and you're back out in the bar. So the experience overall lasts about an hour, and honestly it flew by for me. By the time we got to the end, I was not expecting it to be over, and I was like, oh okay. But I think that's just a sign that I had a really good time in there. Now, without giving too much away, this is just an immersive fairy tale, so go with it. All you have to do is follow the moon and you'll be safe. Well, you'll be safe anyway, but just follow the moon. Now, the warnings that they give you at the beginning here are, it kind of sounds like it's more extreme than the experience actually is, so please don't be frightened of it. As I said, you will at some points be completely in the dark, but it literally only lasts for a couple of minutes, if that, and even then, it doesn't feel like a long time at all. At least it didn't to me. It might do if you are completely scared of the dark. There is also one section of the experience as well where you might potentially feel claustrophobic. I didn't. I thought it was super fun, but I wouldn't say you get closed in as such, but there's space above you, and also you can walk freely, which I think is really important, but there is an area where you might feel a little bit squashed, so just be aware of that. Now, I know sometimes if you are larger, like I'm a size 18, some of these things can feel a little bit nervous, like sometimes going on roller coasters and stuff like that, you can get a little bit worried about whether you might fit. So if you are larger, please don't worry about this, you'll be perfectly fine. The area that you are in is actually expandable, so you'll be fine. That all makes it sound much worse than it is. I promise you, all it is a little tight squeeze and then you'll be fine. And then also, don't be scared about the barefoot thing either. I was slightly worried that it might be a little bit uncomfortable on my feet, but everything in there, down to the carpets, which are exceptionally soft. And then also some of the areas that you walk through are padded underfoot as well, which is really nice. There's a couple of areas where your feet might be on bare concrete, and then there's one area where it's a slightly uneven floor and you're flitting between two different textures, but there is nothing in there that will trip you up. There's no drops, no steps or anything like that, so it is entirely fine. So that's my review of Viola's Room. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was nostalgia unbound. I loved all the little touches that they had in there, everything through to the scents, through to the lighting that they use, through to Helena Bonham Carter's amazing narration as well. Headphones were fantastic, and I am really tempted to buy a pair of those headphones because they were brilliant. The music really adds to it and it brings you into the story completely, so I'm actually super excited to go and do the experience again. Actually knowing what I know now and having done it once, I feel like I will be even more immersed next time. So that's my honest review for Viola's Room. I really hope you check it out. Just a couple of things to know. Tickets are now on sale, and I believe up until around about the 18th of August they're on sale. So do make sure you book in advance. It's already selling out, so make sure you do it. One thing to know is that if you are a Greenwich resident as well, you get cheaper tickets, so make sure you check that out on their website too. As I said, I was lucky enough to be gifted this experience myself, so thank you very much, Punchdrunk, for that. I really, truly appreciate it. So that's all I have to say on Viola's Room. Please do go. I think you're going to love it. And if you're interested in checking out any other immersive theatre experiences, or you want me to go along on your behalf and give a review, then do let me know. Also, if you're somebody that has an immersive experience or a theatre show and you'd love me to go and to give you a review, I'm always up for chatting. So do reach out to me. So that's all we've got time for today. Thanks very much for joining me. I've been Nikki Druce. Remember to stay spooky, and I'll see you ghouls next time.
Let me tell you a story from long, long ago.